Okay, so we are live. Let's wait 10 seconds. Yep. Yep. Welcome everyone to the good Sunday morning. Thank you for joining us at the pre-conference first event of the Mentor Conference. So as you all know, Mentor Conference is going to be a 15-day long event, and it's going to be so many workshops, boot camps, webinars, one-to-one session, university fairs, and whatnot. I'll promise you that this 15 days would going to be most memorable days of your career. You will get to learn anything and everything that you would want to learn in your specific career domains, be it top companies, top scholarships, top universities, and any kind of career guidance. So stay tuned for the next 15 days. We would be definitely sharing all the information, event related updates on the Discord and the Telegram community. So I'm sure that you must have received the emails or the messages. Do join the community because we'll not want to spam you on the email. We would definitely try and share everything in the community itself. And subscribe to our YouTube channel because that's where most of the events are going to be live streamed. Some of the workshops will be on Zoom, so you'll get the event updates on email. But yes, a little bit about Mentor Conference. This conference is going to be special. We have gotten 11,000 registered attendees as of today. So it's the largest student mentorship summit in India, factually proven. Thank you to all of you for joining in. So today's event is very special, and we know why, right? Today's event is all about artificial intelligence, machine learning, and the top companies that everyone, usually aspires for. At least I could say for myself. So, today's event we'll talk a lot of things about how to get into AI, how to prepare your profile, and a lot about the industry from someone who has been in your shoe and have gotten to some of the top companies that we can always dream about and probably get into someday. So without further ado, I would introduce you to today's speaker. So today we have Vinodhini. So I'll just give a formal introduction about Vinodhini. So Vinodhini is a data science practitioner from 5 years and an industry experience holder. And she holds a unique blend of industry experience in software engineering, machine learning, and business analytics. So she has worn multiple hats, and that's what it takes. So she has a master's degree from Arizona State University, a very popular university in the USA, and is currently working as a data and applied ML engineer at Apple. She is a first generation engineering graduate, I believe most of you might be, and is a recipient of several academic scholarships and have worked on end-to-end analytics project and involving data sciences, data engineering, data visualization, data modeling, machine learning, model deployment, analytics framework for companies like Nike, iProtech, and many more. So she would be a really nice person and probably the right person to guide you about anything and everything that relates to data and AI. So over to Vinodhini.
Hey, Nika. Thank you so
Hi.
much for the detailed introduction. I would, probably start with saying that I started as a software engineer and then I thought, I got to work on a couple of analytics projects and that, kind of got my, I would say, interest. And I thought it's probably the time for me to go learn more about analytics or ML and AI. And I came to the US for the master's in business analytics and got to work on end-to-end ML applications. When I say end-to-end, I had experience working as a data engineer, AI engineer, now, playing with both the sides of it, data and AI. And yeah, I'm hoping to probably help as many students or aspirants as I can today.
Perfect. Perfect, Vinodini. So let's start with about your journey, and to tell everyone, Vinodini doesn't come from a lot, bigger metro city, but she has a very interesting journey to share. So many of you would feel inspired about it. So Vinodini, tell us about your journey. Where did you start from your career, your bachelor's, your master's, everything about, till date?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I hail from a small place near Erode, which is in Tamil Nadu, and I did my bachelor's in electronics and communication engineering, which is from PSG Tech, which is in Coimbatore, and then I moved on to work as a software engineer in the customer success department in one of the companies in Bangalore. And while working as a software engineer, not a lot of software engineers will get to work on projects that have very high visibility in their first couple of years. But then I got to work on a project that was really interesting, and it kind of got me to, I would say, got my interest towards analytics side of it. And I also saw a lot of my teammates doing analytics and ML degrees to take their interests further. And I also thought, since I don't have formal education in, machine learning or AI, it was the right time for me to kind of, go ahead and get a degree and learn more about ML and, kind of switch or align my career more towards the AI and ML side of things. So I came to US for a master's in business analytics. And yeah, after that, I was able to work as a data engineer at C1X, which was one of the startups based in California. And after that, I also worked as an AI engineer, primarily in the space of natural language processing. And then, yeah, now currently I work as a data and applied ML engineer at Apple. So this is how it has been.
Perfect. That's very humble of you to talk about it, and that's really great. So, let me understand a few things from you. When we talk about AI, people always talk about there's so many jobs, so many conditions, but then post-COVID, what's the current situation that you see in your ecosystem, or probably in the location that you are in, about the job market in COVID?
Okay. I graduated last year, like I graduated last May, which was probably, the wrong time to graduate for anybody in the whole wide world. But then that was probably the trickiest of times to, search for a job after graduation. But then I would say over the time, specifically, I think in 2021, after 2021, I think from January or even now, the number of openings and the hirings have, gotten back, I'm sure. Oh my God. Can you see me? I think I lost you guys.
I think the video is turned off. Please check again. Okay. So Vinodhini is going to join again. She got a little bit of technical glitch, but do not worry. And people who are aiming for AI, we have tons of resources, tons of workshops coming along. This is just a starter, and Vinodhini is going to explain a lot about how you would want to get into AI. What are the kind of preparations that you would need to be able to get into a job, at top companies like Apple, Facebook, Netflix, Google. And it is possible. Even if you're graduating from a top 100 or 200 ranked universities, you can still be able to get into the top companies. And that's what we are going to talk about very soon when she joins. Okay. So people who are joining right now, we are discussing about getting into AI. Vinodhini is the speaker. She works at Apple. She's a graduate from Arizona State University, and she has done business analytics. She has done a basic understanding of machine learning, also some projects in the companies. And she's also a software engineer. So she's going to explain a lot about what it goes into an AI, field as a job person is considered, and then we'll have more discussions as we go along. So we are just waiting for her to join again. So let me see. Once she joins, I'll probably keep you guys updated. Yep.
Hey, Nikhil.
So yeah,
Sorry for
you're
the
back
trouble.
again. Thank you. Thank you for joining us again. So yeah. So we were talking about the job markets in COVID and how is it currently looking like?
Yeah, actually, last summer it was pretty tricky. That's when I graduated, I was just telling you. But now, like, I think for the past couple of months, it has been really great. And there has been a lot of, opportunities that have been posted. And even according to the LinkedIn employment report, there has been a drastic increase in the number of job openings and the hirings. So I would say there is not a lot to worry about from here on, provided, the situation continues to be the same. But yeah, it's a good time for
That's great.
cars, I think.
So Okay, so what are the skills that we need to have, which has been trending or which has been looked, into by the companies in the field of data science and AI? Because as I read into your bio, there are so many hats that you've, worn during your course, right? So what are the skills a person probably in their college or working professional should want or should have to build in their profile or portfolio so that they become relevant for these top companies?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think when we start thinking about machine learning, right, most of us, what we do is we will focus more on the machine learning and the algorithm side of it. And we may not really think so much about how the companies would implement those algorithms or, deploy things in production. So, not a lot of courses out there or the boot camps out there would actually teach you that, deployment of things in production because it's primarily the engineering stuff. But that has really been taking off in the recent months, I could say. ML ops, machine learning ops, where, it's not just about coming up with an effective algorithm to tackle your problem, but it's also about how frequently are we going to update that algorithm, and also a model tracking and model drifting that needs to be monitored over time. So I would say like ML ops is something that has really been taking off, and it is one of the most complementary skills that you could have specifically for somebody who is interested in the ML and the AI space. And in addition to that, if you look at the whole ML workflow, it starts with data engineering, right? You need the data pipelines to be pushing your data continuously to power these models, to train these models. So, in that sense, if we look at it, there is data engineering that is also really taking off these days. And then there is the machine learning, a training and modeling part of it, followed by the ML ops. So, in addition to ML, there is this data engineering and ML ops that is really taking off. So, it's definitely advisable, if one can actually take up these skills as well.
That's interesting. So when we talk about these skills, any specific courses that you could, recommend, or any specific platforms so that they can start from fundamentals and probably have practice sessions around that? Because I believe there are millions of courses in the market, right? And people usually get lost not because of wrong courses, but because of too many courses that they would want to look into. So what are the things that you believe, okay, these are the kind of courses that one should look at, and these are the kind of starting materials that they can pick it up? Again, with a disclaimer, we are not promoting any specific course, but we are trying to help with whatever worked for us.
No, I get it, but I would say specifically for data engineering side of things, like when you talk about data engineering, naturally, big data comes in. So once there is big data in place, we would use, Apache Spark and Airflow primarily to schedule the workflows. So I would say those two are the primary ones. Although there are like, there is Kafka, there is Scala, and there are a lot of other technologies depending on different use cases. But I would say primarily Apache Spark and Airflow for the data engineering side of things. But one could definitely, research more and learn, add more tools to their toolkit for sure. And when it comes to ML ops, there is only, I would say, like I have only worked with very limited tools, which is one of them is ML Flow, which is by Databricks. So that is something that really helps with model tracking and experimentation and everything end to end. So yeah, that's primarily it. And Airflow also comes handy with the deployment side of things. So it's like two for the price of one, I would say.
That's interesting. So, guys, I hope you are taking notes because certain things will not be repeated, and it's good to take notes. Okay, so let's come to one of the most, I would say, interesting question that people would have, when they are studying in the college, or even in universities outside. So, what it takes to get into a dream company, like a FAANG company here, when we talk about AI, data science, usually it's a FAANG or GAMANG, like Microsoft is also included somewhere, right? So, any insights towards your preparations in the college days? How did you end up getting into a fan company? And what kind of you think that, okay, these are the elements in the profile which really matters for a company to look at and to be able to, because there will be always a brutal competition for, by the people to enter into such companies. So,
Mhm.
what it takes to get into a fan company?
I get it. It's not just for a fan company, but for any ML role for that matter, right? ML is always accompanied or there is always an intersection of a couple of other things. One is big data, right? So once you're into the ML space, you are training models, and you need literally, a TBs and TBs of data to train the model. So naturally, big data comes in place. So the more skills you have to actually process and work with big data, and when you also think about the whole workflow these days, all of this actually, takes place in the cloud. So in addition to your ML skills, if you have the big data plus cloud skills, like for example, if you take a couple of, AWS certifications, or if you have experience working with AWS SageMaker, for example, that is going to complement your skill, and that is definitely going to make your profile unique, because not a lot of aspirants who are applying for the ML roles are going to have this unique combination of skills. And that is something that I have applied for myself as well. And I could also see the difference, like, before I had experience with cloud and after I had experience with cloud, and how many number of interviews I got because of that. So that is one thing, like to have the, I would say, the complementary skills to ML. And the second is obviously, having enough practice with basic data structures and, programming skills. That definitely comes handy, not just for FAANG, or just for any other, company for that matter. And the third thing most companies always look for is the product sense, right? Like you could be an ML engineer, writing the code just to probably train a model, but at the end of the day, all the companies are going to deploy that into a product, like, so how do we design those products? Or I would say on some level, probably system design, right? Like that would help you understand how these elements fit into a bigger product or a bigger picture, and that will help you probably crack these interviews as well. So one is that complementary skills, which is cloud and big data skills. The second would be the basic data structures and the programming skills, and the third would be to have these product sense, like to understand how products actually go into deployment and make money for the companies.
Interesting. I think it definitely means just the ML will not cut in. You need to have a little bit of holistic understanding, and probably a little bit of user understanding also. So perfect. So when we look towards, so many fields are there. You mentioned at least three different kind of jobs itself which exist in India. All the three things, and you took 4 years to even get to ASU, and then probably get into one of the FAANG companies. So at an early stage, probably in your college days, if you reflect back and check, okay, this is how I could have been able to build my profile better if I would have known certain things from my mentors, right? So what are the things that you would recommend as a mentor? How to start, when to start, what could be an action plan for people? Could be a basic action plan for them to figure out certain things, but some kind of an action plan for them to start early.
I get it. Basically, there is no when to start. So as soon as you figure out that you want to do this, you just start right away. But there was just one problem that I had, and even a couple of my friends had, because we always thought machine learning was one of the most complicated concepts because of the math behind it. So we were always afraid of to just get started on ML, because it always seemed to be this complicated concept. But if you actually think about it, you don't really have to start with ML or those algorithms. You don't have to start with an SVM or even a linear regression for that matter. You start with basic SQL and data manipulation and data cleaning and data processing, right? And then you move on to statistics and probability. So when you think about it, SQL is not going to be that difficult for you. It's just manipulating data in a structured format. And then moving on to statistics, it's nothing that we've not studied in our high school mathematics, really. So the statistics and probability courses would also kind of give you an idea. And once you build this foundation, then you can go on to start doing your machine learning. So you won't have that initial block, or you will not be starting with the difficult course, so that won't really stop you from going further. But then once you start with ML, you can probably explore a couple of libraries, like for example sklearn or even NumPy and pandas to start with, and then you can get to the math behind the ML models. So this would be probably the right progression for anybody to get started on. And I've also put together the resources that I have used, for statistics, what are a couple of YouTube channels and blogs that I followed, and even for SQL and machine learning courses that I found useful. I'll probably share it in the comments for, the attendees to see.
Perfect. Yep, all the attendees, we'll also try and email you whatever resources that we are able to gather from Vinodhini so that you guys get that head start in your career. And we would definitely want all of you to be successful in your career. So now, certain examples of corporate world ML or AI that you can talk about in public domain. Okay, these are the examples that you would have seen in the Valley or in US or in India. That okay, this is the cutting edge example that I would say, and this is the kind of things that goes behind the scenes in making that kind of a model. We could be talking about OpenAI by Elon Musk and all. So getting some kind of a realistic example would be more important, because OpenAI, yeah, it looks fascinating to a lot of people, and a lot of people think it's way more difficult than it could be. So if you can give certain corporate world example or use cases about ML or AI, it would help people to eventually look towards building projects on that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, this is important because, like, for example, when you start building your own, I would say, a portfolio of projects, you would want to look at what industries do you want to venture into, if you have any preferences as such, right? So, if you think about it, probably in the finance sector, finance and the payments industry, the one problem that everybody is always trying to solve, or trying to improve upon, is this fraud prediction, right? So fraud and risk prevention is one of the most important problems. So you're trying to predict a credit card fraud or an insurance claim fraud, and these are some common problems that needs to be solved, and that are also a tricky, because it is going to be a very rare event, right? It's not going to be that frequent. And there is this highly imbalanced class problem that needs to be solved. And it's challenging in itself, although we have a lot of, different algorithms to take care of. And one more common problem, let's say in the retail sector, for example, would be to demand prediction, right? Demand prediction and sales for forecasting that would help any retail company to probably, stock their inventory and so on. And in the marketing side of things, if you think about it, that's like plenty of examples going on over there. Like, just to give you an example, if you search for a particular product on Google, and then you go on to do your own work, and then you keep seeing all these ads pop up right by you showing, hey, you want this, we found a similar product with so and so discount and this and that. And that's one of the perfect examples of real time machine learning doing a recommendation for you to show what other products you might be interested in, and so on. So for every industry there are different I would say there are different problems that are in the, I would say, a main focus. But once you start into this, once you get started on the data science or the machine learning side of things, you would want to focus on building a couple of projects that are specific to each of these industries. Because later, when you apply for a particular company, it would make sense that if you have worked on that industry and you understand the problems that are in that particular industry, it would be easy for you to actually talk about how you could solve it or how you already worked on it. Hey, I can't hear you. I think you're muted and talking.
Okay, sorry.
That's-
So now let's understand one of the most, usual question that people. Okay, I've learned, I've done all the upskilling, I've done all the learning. Now it comes to deployment of that learning. So jobs, right? So job hunting, you have definitely, good experience in India also. When you had like few jobs in India and then in US also. So, what are your experience and advice in terms of job hunting, so that people don't commit those silly and trivial mistakes which they end up doing many other times because they never had such kind of a guidance. So, how is job hunting abroad versus India, and what are the precautions or hygiene points one could look at when they're looking out for jobs specifically in this domain?
Mhm. Okay, so like when we talk about job search in India versus abroad, like the one prime difference is that we don't have campus placements. In the sense, nobody's giving you the assurance that there is 100%, 100% placement guarantee if you get into this college or this college or this university. And although we have career fairs where different companies would come and talk about the kind of work they're doing, where you could also talk about your unique experience and what you bring to the table, and if there is a match, you might get an interview opportunity and things move forward and you get a job. And there are people who get job this way, but although it's not like everybody gets a job this way. So mostly when you come to the US, it's more like how you network with people here on your own, and then try to find where there is some synergy between, I don't know, the company that you're looking to work for and the kind of skills that you have, and if you could be a good fit. And here we have this I would say the concept of informational interviews. So it's not necessary that you sit with somebody, ask for a referral, and then they refer you to the company to get a job. You just sit with somebody and try and understand what the company is doing, not just in terms of work, also in terms of trying to understand if the culture is a good fit for you, how hectic the work gets, or is that something that you're okay with, and all of that. So I would say the prime difference is that here the onus is on the person to find a job for him or herself, not so much on the university. So I would recommend them to start networking or connecting with people. And I've been using LinkedIn primarily as as a tool to connect with fellow recruiters, or even my university alumni and people who are working in the companies that I'm targeting. That is definitely something that they should do. And I also have a book recommendation. There is a book called 2-Hour Job Strategy, or I think it's 2-Hour Job Search actually. So you should just go through the book. It's not a big one. I think it probably has 150 to 200 pages, and it gives you everything like from A to Z of how to do job search, specifically in a country like US.
Perfect. So, US is definitely there, but not a lot of students would go to US, because of their own reasons, right? So in
Mm-hmm.
India, when we look at, in the kind of jobs that you had done, how is your strategy in terms of, looking at Indian jobs, or is it similar nowadays, just like US, networking helps?
Mm, I'm not really sure how that works in India, because even now, like I do talk to a couple of my friends in India about when they're doing job search and other things. But with them, it has always been the other way around. The recruiters reaching out to them, trying to poach them, or in a way, even if they're passively looking for a job, the recruiters reach out. And I've not really heard of how it worked, like how in fact even LinkedIn worked. There have been a couple of my friends who have been telling me LinkedIn doesn't really work as good as US and here in India, and so on. So I'm not really sure if I'm the right person to talk about the job strategy in India, specifically with respect to AI ML space, because I've not really done that back home.
Perfect. No, that's absolutely fine, and that's a good part that we try and understand. For people who are looking to get jobs in India, probably we're gonna share in the coming mentor conference sessions. We have a couple of Indian job recruiters who are coming on board, so they'll probably guide those students. But yes, for US, you got all the tips, and that tip is predominantly very similar all across the globe also. So networking
That's
really helps, and building those relationships are going to be really helpful. So now let's understand about master's journey. You did your master's in business analytics, if I'm correct, from ASU, right?
true.
And MSBA is often being compared with MBA or data analytics or data sciences, right? So can you give a little bit more insights why master's in business analytics? Masters
Mhm.
of Science in Business Analytics. Why ASU? What kind of experience did you had from that college and that course? So yeah.
Mhm. I get it. Actually, like when I started, I had this dilemma if I wanted to go for an MBA with an data analytics specialization, or if I wanted to get into MSBA. But I thought, like, given my experience and background, I was, leaning more towards the technical side of things rather than, getting into the business side of things. So I thought I might as well try MSBA, which has, a little more on the data science, machine learning courses, not as much as, managerial or business courses. And one thing though that I realized later was I should have probably taken a master's in computer science with a specialization in AI or ML, because that would have been a nice 2-year long course, which would have given me enough time to work on a lot more projects than I did, because my MS was just a 9-month course and spread over 2 semesters. So like that was something that I realized, because I would have had enough time to kind of build my portfolio or profile, and given me enough opportunities. But one particular thing on why I went to ASU was because I was very nervous as a student to come over here, specifically after knowing that it's on me to find a job all by myself. I was not, very comfortable with networking or, going out talking to people. So I wanted an opportunity where the college would set me up with a particular employer for any capstone project. And ASU had that. Like, so ASU has a capstone project, which would be in the spring semester. So what happens is the university would, put me in touch with an employer for a capstone project, or a problem of choice that the employer wants me to work on. So there it was just like, if it was an internship, I would have to find one myself, which I was not really comfortable with or not very confident of at that time. So I wanted this capstone project because I knew once I get that foot in the door, I would be able to definitely work and show the progress and be able to, I would say, impress the employer and get the job. But so that was, I would say, the prime reason why I put ASU on the list of things. And but although there are a lot of other courses, I would say one is the Carlson MBA. I think it's the University of Minnesota, and there is also Purdue's MSIM and BA, which is very popular, and it's most sought after, in fact. And they all are, I think, 3 semester long courses. So if somebody is not familiar with programming side or Python, or if they need some time to kind of settle in and then slowly take it in, I would definitely recommend going for a longer course rather than taking up a 9-month course like I did.
Interesting.
But
No,
definitely,
that's
go for a one where you have an opportunity to do an internship or a capstone project for an employer. So that takes, that settles.
yes. I think that's a very important hack. Not a hack exactly, but a good tip that if you get a practical exposure outside upfront in your course, that really adds a big value to what you're learning and probably to the employers also. So yes, okay. So now we are on the closing side before we jump on to all the questions that has been asked. So candidates, do shoot in your questions in the comments. I'll probably stream it on the screen and we'll take up a few questions at the end. But before ending the formal session, any specific tips or insights or any message that you want to give to the aspirants or the data science or AI or ML community from your side?
Mm-hmm. I would say, like, probably in terms of tips, it's always to think about how we could stand out, because suddenly there is an influx of aspirants coming into the data science or the ML space. Almost everybody in my network or everybody I know wants to get into the data analytics or the data science space, right? So it definitely boosts up the competition way too much. So we have to constantly kind of think about how are we going to make our profile or the resume stand out. Because if you're going to do a housing price prediction project as one of your projects in your resume, that's definitely not going to add a lot of value when the recruiter looks at it, right? So always think about how your profile could stand out, and think about the industry specific problems that you can work on that would probably make more sense, and it will be relevant also. It will definitely help you with the job search. Like that's probably the only thing that I would say.
That's great. Perfect. So thank you, Vinodhini. Thank you for this. Now we are open for questions. People, if you have any specific questions, you have 30, 20 minutes approximately. So we are a little well ahead, ahead of time in this session. So you can always ask your questions. Okay. So we have one very interesting question from Mahesh. I'll stream it here.
Mm-hmm.
So what is the exact difference between business analytics and data analytics?
Okay, so see, within data science job family, a lot of words are being thrown around and they're loosely defined, right? So there is not actually going to be a lot of difference between a data or business analytics. But from the looks of it, you can always say in business analytics, we are trying to look at things more from the business point of view. Let's say, for example, it's not just, hey, can you pull me this data from this table? It's more about, okay, how can we cut down, I don't know, the user acquisition cost, the acquisition cost per user, or you're trying to think more in terms of the business problems and are solving them as a business analyst. But in terms of a data analyst, you might be playing more with the data and not so much on the business side of things. But that said, if you go and look up the job description for a data analyst and business analyst, you may not be able to find a lot of difference, because since it's a really evolving field, there is these terms are really loosely defined and not very strictly
Got
separated as
it.
such.
Okay, now we have a very interesting country-based question asked by some international student.
Mhm.
So, as a data scientist, do I necessarily have to kickstart my career in the US for a meaningful career growth, or do I have fair opportunities in the UK too? Could be framed it like this way: why not UK? Why just US?
Hmm. No, it was I mean, it was a different time when I decided to move to the US and not to UK, but that's purely more of a personal decision, and it has nothing to do with data science. As a data science student, if the scope is more like if it's better in the US or UK. And around the time when I was looking, the whole Brexit was going on, and I was not really sure if I wanted to go to UK, but that was it. So I don't really think there is any specific difference in terms of a career growth, between UK and US.
Perfect. Got it. Yeah, from my understanding, Judah, so UK is also a fairly growing market. Frankly, UK and Europe have more demanding jobs and could be considered as a lesser competitive market than US, because all of them people, as like your comment says, are more inspired to go to US. So you should explore UK. They have tech visas also, so there is a far more chance for better immigration experience also. So we have few small questions here. Okay, so this is a very very interesting Indian question. Okay,
Mhm.
uh, is Ragashri is a high schooler and she's planning to get here. She is planning to get into data science. So from high school, what one can do in data science? That's very tricky for me also.
Interesting. No, but hmm. I mean, it definitely makes sense to get into a good university, but getting to good university and getting certifications are not really mutually exclusive. You can do both. But as a high schooler, you should definitely get your hands on playing around. If you already have some programming language in your high school, if you started learning some tools. In fact, like if not anything, you would already have Microsoft Excel. That's a very good tool to start with for data manipulating, data wrangling, and other data processing stuff. So you could definitely get your hands started there, and then move on to learning SQL and Python. And definitely by the time, if you could take up any boot camps or courses, make sure to do the hands-on exercises. That will definitely help you. When it comes to probably having, I don't know, looking for a job, or going for an interview, it doesn't really matter if you have good number of certifications. If you can't really crack the interview and if you don't have the skill, none of that would matter. But that said, if you have a good university on your resume, it's definitely going to get more eyeballs, get you interview calls. But it's totally on how you build your profile, and university is just a part of building your profile, right? You can still be going to an, I don't know, like third tier university and be, I don't know, a Kaggle grandmaster, and your value by that. So it's just one other part. But yeah, you could do both of them. But I would say get started with playing around with data. Just with any tool, starting with Excel, in fact.
Got it. Got it. Okay, so we have a couple of very interesting questions in terms of do's and don'ts.
Mm.
So, what are some of the biggest don'ts? Or, okay, if you're going to US, you should also be knowing this. So any specific don'ts that you would want to recommend?
Hmm. I wouldn't say there isn't. Probably, if there is one thing that you should know, that most of the work that we do here, like in as part of the course curriculum, is going to be projects. There is going to be lots and lots of projects for every course and every semester, which may not be the same as what we are used to back in India. So one thing is, expect lots and lots of projects where you would be doing hands-on exercises, programming, or like whatever that may be. So don't expect your course to be as, I would say, theoretical as it is back in India.
Okay,
Be ready for
perfect.
a lot of hands-on exercises and deadlines.
Okay, so yes, I think that's one thing, and probably another thing that I could add in, you're above 18 when you're going to US, so do follow all the norms and the laws, because a lot of students who don't know and they go at trivial routes and all, they usually don't know a lot of things that would be legally implicable. Doing not like overtime in the part-time jobs is something that I've seen commonly done by a lot of students. So those
Mm-hmm.
things could also be, taken care of. Okay, so one interesting question from a student is: do we have to learn all programming languages, or can we just, go on with the Python itself?
Hmm. I think it's totally up to you, but personally, I have been like, all around only Python. As part of my course curriculum, I had both Python and R, but, just for those courses just for academic projects, I, learned and worked with R, but I stuck to Python. But I think if you have to choose, if you can't learn both R or Python or, multiple other languages, Python is definitely a very good start for you to go, specifically with respect to data science. So, like, Python, yes. And yeah, that's it. Python is
Perfect.
definitely the place to go. Yep.
Okay, so now one last question,
Mm-hmm.
and then we'll probably have a few tidbits here. So, what all should a strong profile for securing an admission in MSc in AI would consist of? Any specific parameters? Okay, these are a few of the things that would make a profile look stronger, so that this person have more chance to get admissions in the best of the best colleges.
Mm-hmm. Oh, in my case, like I had all the other, I would say boxes ticked, but the one thing that would have probably stood out would have been my SOP and my resume. Because in the statement is where you're actually saying, what actually draws you to AI, or what kind of work have you done, and what is it that is interesting for you to continue doing that by, taking up this MSc AI. But yeah, that's primarily it. And definitely build at least a couple of projects even before you start with the course. And you also have to be of the understanding that MSc is a graduate level course, which means that you are expected to have some basic level of understanding of that course already. So you can start with, I would say, a couple of basic projects to start, and then you can build upon it and say, hey, what, I did this and I'm particularly excited about this particular project and I want to learn more about it, or get deep in the AI space, and that's why I want to go for a graduate degree on that. But yeah, it's mostly about your story and your profile. And
Absolutely. And I think one very important thing is, if the grad committee is finding clarity in your application that yes, you're a conscious applicant, you know what you're doing, it would make more sense and your actions would speak louder in your resume and in your SOP. So perfectly answered. So one question is predominantly, I think it's more from a younger community because you had some kind of work ex before you went for your masters. Okay. So
Mhm.
there are so many similar questions. So I'm gonna just narrate it. For freshers who are going abroad for data science or ML or AI, how their journey could look like, if you can narrate from something from your colleagues or your friends' experience.
Mhm. Yeah, I actually had a couple of my peers who came, straight after their bachelor's for the masters here, and I would say it's not as easy as it is for an experienced person. But then you can always do part-time jobs and even internships to kind of build your experience profile, right? Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you work as an intern or if you worked as part-time employee at somewhere, but if you have that experience in the industry and if you have built things hands-on, that is what is actually going to count. If I remember correctly, there was this student in my class who was literally she did her bachelor's in 2019. She graduated from her master's in 2020, but she was one of the first students to get placed in our whole batch. She was a fresher, but then she had like 5 internships during the whole course of bachelor's and grad school, and that definitely added value because that's a lot of industry experience, and you don't really be I mean, you can't really be considered a fresher anymore because you have built that experience in the US particularly. So even if you're a fresher, don't worry about it. Come in here and start taking up any work or even do, a personal projects on the side. Keep building some, projects and gain some experience. That is definitely going to help you with the job search.
Okay, so I think more important than the number of years would be the quality of experience that you have. And if one feels that they have a good quality of experience or projects under their belt, the companies would not wait to, have them more years to be able to, get them. So I think that's very important for all of the people. So now we are coming almost at the closure of the event. I'll have maximum 1 or 2 questions, and probably there are a lot of people asking what is ASU and how did you get into ASU. To help all of you guys, ASU itself is coming to the mentor conference on 14th and 15th of July. So why did you directly talk to the guys at ASU? And Vinodhini is anyway reachable on LinkedIn. You can probably connect to her, follow her, learn more about her insights. She has shared already one of the good resources on AI and ML. And I would definitely request Vinodhini sometime soon if you can narrate your experiences about getting into ASU, your journey. It would be really insightful for all other students to take inspirations from you. So we have one question here is from a 16-year-old guy, and it's pretty interesting guy. Jeet, first of all, thank you for sharing your question. So Jeet is a 16-year-old person. He did his ML from Stanford through Coursera, and goal is to work as a web developer at Google, again a FAANG company. So can you suggest me some good courses? What should one do to be able to quickly speed up the profile? So someone who wants to put that extra mile, what are those things that we can have a possibility for that extra mile candidates?
I get it. I'm not really sure if there is any course specifically for web development, but I'm sure there is going to be tons of courses and boot camps for you because I don't really have a lot of experience in the web development space. But then I'm not really sure if I'm the right person to answer.
Okay, let me answer this, G, for you a little bit. I can put in.
Mm-hmm.
So Google itself has their own courses on web development. Probably you can look into Google Digital Garage or Google Analytics Academy. So they do have their own courses. And if you are really good in those courses, you can probably have a word with the recruiter. And just what Vinodhini said, networking would be really helpful. If you're really good in your projects and if you have done all the things diligently, start networking with the people, before even you get into the entire job search or any specific internship search. And you can use the online resources by Google, and it's absolutely free of cost, right? So you can probably use those Google, Microsoft, Amazon, IBM. All of these companies provide free courses for you, all of you guys, to learn web development, data science, software, and so many things, right? So probably we'll do some other day an IT live session on these free resources, or you can join our Telegram community or the Discord community where we keep sharing these resources for all of you. So now we have one interesting question on data science versus data engineering. Okay. And people have a habit of comparing, but let's understand what is data science, what is data engineering, because people often confuse between data science and data engineering or data visualization to be all same. So what's your insights about it?
Okay. So in the whole machine learning workflow, if you think about it, let's say, let's say if there is an app, right? We have ForeignAdmits website, for example. So you go to ForeignAdmits and you say you are interested in getting emails and other notifications and updates about the events from ForeignAdmits, right? You enable particular checkbox or whatever options they have, and this data will be collected from the website from all the users, whoever wants to probably get these emails, and this data needs to be stored somewhere from this website to a centralized server probably, and it also needs to be sent out on I would say like in real time, or even if there is not a lot of data to send in real time, it needs to be sent, let's say every 1 hour this data is shared to the centralized server. When after that, that data is being used by the marketing team or whoever that is to actually send out an email anytime there is an event. So the first part of the data where you actually collect data from these different user interfaces or IoT devices or whatever the data source may be, collecting this data and probably curating it for different use cases is what is being done by the data engineering team. Collecting data from the data sources, it could be real time, because let's say for example, if you are clicking on an ad, if you want to search for a particular product, it is real time, right? Because immediately you start seeing similar ads. So sending this data from the source to whatever use case it needs to be is done by the data engineering team. But the data science team comes after the data engineering team has curated all the data ready for it to be consumed. So data science team takes this, cleaned up data, just for example, and then builds model on top of it or trains the model and so on. So in this whole workflow, data engineering comes first and data science comes next. There is nothing like which one is really better, because both of them are essential to the whole machine learning application or the pipeline. So that is how they differ. But in terms of, what skills are required, data engineering is aligned more with software engineering and, basic programming skills. Whereas, a data science is aligned more with, machine learning and training models and model building side of things. So data science is aligned with ML, whereas data engineering is more towards, I would say, database design, database, and software engineering. So you can figure out where your skills are and then take it up.
Absolutely. I think this is wonderful. So first of all, we are coming to the end of the session. So thank you all of the audience and people to join in, and thank you Vinodhini to take out this precious hours and share a lot of insights. And I'm sure all of you would have learned majority of the things about data sciences, business analytics, getting into top companies, preparing your profile, getting into universities, and differences between certain terms in data science industry. So thank you everyone once again. Just before we end the session, today 4 p.m. we have a boot camp exclusively with a data science trainer at 4 p.m. live on YouTube again. So if you are planning to attend the entire details and take a deep dive into data science, different fields, different subjects, different understanding, and probably start building your profile, you should not miss that event. It's at 4 p.m. today on our YouTube. It's going to be live again. So probably you might want to subscribe our YouTube and get notifications of that. But thank you, Vinodhini. Thank you, everyone, for joining in. It's a lovely to host you at the Mentor Conference, pre-conference. Thank you.
Thanks, Nikhil, and thanks everyone for joining. And it was wonderful talking to you all. I hope the session was useful to as many aspirants as possible.
So, guys, it was great to have you all here. The certificate for the event, we are trying to share the link. Probably find it in the comment. If not, go to the Discord community that you might be already a part of. See your emails. If you've registered on foreignadmits.com/mentorconference 2021, you would have gotten a registration email and a community email. And in that, you would find Telegram community and Discord community. We would not be emailing you a lot of event updates. We will be directly posting it on the Discord and on the Telegram community. And there are more than 40 events. So if you want to plan data sciences, software, data engineering, visualization, so many topics are going to be talked about. In fact, product management, digital marketing, and so many more. But today, at 4 p.m., we have another event which is going to be live about, data science, and there's a boot camp on this. So you should want to attend that kind of an event. Okay, we have very special speaker. I'll not reveal the name right now. You can probably find it on the website, but he's really good. He has trained more than 1,000 students in data science industry. So he's going to take up a detailed workshop. So do come with your pen and paper or your laptops and start learning. So thank you. This is Nikhil Jain, founder and CEO at ForeignAdmits, signing off for today. I'll see you at 4 p.m. I hope to see you there. Bye-bye.
So the first question was why higher education, right? So by higher education, the study and the base that we have developed in bachelor's is not really enough.
Rather than actually talking about the purpose, they actually reprint their resume there.
But yeah, you have just involved. What impact did you create? What was substantial growth? Was there any kind of a consistency in that activity?
Product manager needs to be relationship building and communication in terms of the fact that it has to be very clear what. So